Hello, 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 comic fans and readers everywhere, all around the world. It's time once again for Whatcha Readin. People ask me all the time, what are you reading when you're not writing? And I guess they want the perspective of a professional writer on pop culture and literature and all the rest. So here are my recent reads. Corto Maltese, The Early Years by Hugo Pratt. This is yet another volume in Euro Comics. Excellent, excellent English translations, translated from the Italian. Um, my buddy Dean Mullaney runs this company, oversees this project, and these are by far the best presentations in English of Hugo Pratt ever. The careful translations trying to make the translated English dialogue more colloquial, more engaging, more accurate to the original Italian without being boring or flat like so many of the other English translations have been in the past. And this Corto Maltese, The Early Years, takes us back to 1905 and the Russo-Japanese War, which was a war fought between Japan and Russia over domination of Korea and Manchuria. And it's a famous war for the fact that the Japanese were the total underdogs and managed a complete and utter victory over the Russians, who had to unconditionally surrender in the face of Japanese aggression. It's the first time that Japan exerts its military muscle overseas. Is very significant. And for me, it's an absolutely fascinating war. I love reading about the Russo-Japanese War. I have a toy soldier fascination with it. I generally have a fascination with wars of the late 19th century, pre-World War I, 20th century wars. And this, like every other Hugo Pratt story, excellently researched. The strange thing about this is Hugo's not, or Hugo, Corto Maltese isn't in it very much. Corto Maltese is an adventurer. He's, as we learn in this volume, he's the product of a gypsy mother and English father, which I think this is the first time this is ever revealed what Corto Maltese ethnic makeup is. And but Corto's not in the story a lot. Not to say it's not a great story. Largely, the action surrounds a young Jack London who covered the Russo-Japanese War as a journalist. He was also seeking fodder for further fiction he would write, and he runs into trouble with a Japanese officer in a matter of honor, and that's most of the suspense coming out of this story is involves that. You know, how will he, certainly a tough American guy, but how will he fare in a duel with a skilled Japanese officer? The story also features a cameo from Rasputin. Rasputin plays not even a cameo; he plays a pretty large part in this story. Apparently, Rasputin was a Russian army deserter in the Russo-Japanese War, and he has his own run-ins with Jack London and ultimately Corto Maltese. But it's an excellent volume if you're into Hugo Pratt, who was undeniably a comics genius, largely influenced by Milton Caniff and people like that. If you're into Hugo Pratt, this was a terrific story, terrific volume. Now, as a comic book writer of world renown, sometimes people send me comics to review, and sometimes I review them, sometimes I don't, because my mom taught me to never say anything nice, or never say anything at all if you can't say something nice. But I like this. Let me go back to the cover. It's called Six Gun Gorilla by Brian Christgau and Adrian Sibar, if I'm pronouncing that right, or Sibar. And I usually don't like mashup westerns. I like my westerns pure. I don't like my westerns with vampires or witches or robots or aliens in them. But this one features a gorilla, and I do like gorillas. I do like monkeys and baboons. They amuse me. They make me laugh. I watch endless videos on YouTube's of gorillas in the wild. And I also really respect anybody who can take an utterly ridiculous premise and make it work. In this one, a somewhat super evolved gorilla. He's more intelligent than average gorillas. He works in a circus. He's sort of a trick gorilla, and it's established early on that he's kind of a good-natured soul, but taken out west and ends up in the middle of a revenge western. And his gimmick in the circus is that he can shoot these specially made handguns, which are just huge handguns that he uses in the circus. And for all the crazy premise, which, the writer absolutely makes work, it's a really good Western. There's not a whole lot of anachronisms, beyond the fact of the core crazy idea. There's no anachronisms either in dialogue or characterization or anything else. It's a good, solid, what would normally be a traditional Western, except that it stars a two-gun gorilla. And I really enjoyed it, particularly the dialogue. Brian Christgau creates a patois that remains consistent throughout, and the art is a little more minimalist than I would like in a Western, but it's effective. The storytelling is excellent. I enjoyed it. It was a page turner. I wanted to see what happened next, and you can't say anything better about a story than I wanted to see what happened next. This trade paperback volume, which represented I think 6 issues of the original comic, it tells a complete story, but ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. There is more to tell, and I look forward to reading more adventures of Six Gun Gorilla. I suggest you look it up if you like your westerns a little bit out of the box. Freddy Lumbard. I recently discovered this Chaland, this French artist, and was surprised to discover that there were volumes of some of his work published in a co-publishing effort by Humanoids and DC Comics. I was never aware of these volumes. Otherwise, I would have picked them up because I really like European comics. Chaland is one of the founders of what in France was called the atomic comic style. It sort of takes Tintin, the style of Hergé's Tintin, and updates it a bit. And this style began appearing in the 50s and gained a lot of proponents. Chaland being, I think, the leader of the pack, sort of the front runner of the atomic style, leading to guys like Olivier Schwartz, who is one of my favorite comic book artists in the whole world, who generally works in this atomic comics style. Simplified, well drawn, kind of an animation style. It's just really appealing and can be used for any kind of story. And these Freddy Lumbard stories, apparently Freddy and it's never made clear, and probably because I'm reading later volumes, it's not established that the 3 characters, Freddy and his friends, or possibly relatives, they live on a monthly stipend provided by a benevolent uncle. And I don't understand, but it leaves them free to have adventures and solve mysteries and get themselves into tons and tons of trouble. And as you can see here, the storytelling is excellent. The art's terrific. I love this kind of straightforward, simplified, cartoony style. And there's plenty of humor. The characters are distinctive. Freddy can be a bit of a jerk, which I like. He's different from like Spirou, who obviously these are influenced by Spirou and Fantasio stories, but he's more like Fantasio than Spirou. He's quick to irritate and pushes his friends around a little bit. Friends are relatives. I can't figure out whether these are brother and sister, cousins, what. It didn't matter to the story. And I really, really enjoyed the stories, except the last one, which was a little bit too avant-garde, too much like a Jean-Luc Godard story for me. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. There was a lot of dream sequences and hallucinations and things like that. But the 3 or 4, there's a lot of albums reprinted here in this one single volume. The preceding stories I really enjoyed. They were straight up adventures or mysteries, with certainly a touch of humor and fast paced and fun. So very, very cool stuff. So that's it for me this week. That's what I've been reading, and hopefully be back next week after I read some more. See you down the road.